Welcome to the rise of new independent publishers with Michael Worosz, CVP Corporate Development and Independent Publishing at Take-Two. And I'm Michael Metzger. I'm a partner at Drake Partners, a global media and technology investment bank. Michael, what's your background and what's your role at Take-Two?
Good morning, Michael. It's nice to be here, everyone. I've been at Take-Two for a little over 9 years. I run corporate development, so the typical spate of M&A, investing, and new business development activities. I run a couple different businesses as well, including Private Division, which is a PC and console game publishing label that we launched about 5 years ago. On the Social Point, which is our mobile games free-to-play publishing label, reports into me. And then our direct-to-consumer initiative reports into me as well. So I've got my hand in a few pots, some games publishing and some new technology in the form of D2C.
Great. Glad to have you here. How has COVID-19 affected Take-Two?
I would say overall, like probably every other organization out there, there are a few weeks of getting to our feet, figuring out what our posture from work from home looked like. But I have to say that especially the development organizations that are working on new content, they've managed the transition incredibly well. And I think they're working really productively right now. I think for certain aspects of our game development, there was a little bit of scrambling for working with our different supply chain partners. So for example, with Private Division, we work with certain partners out there to help do ports for other platforms. We'll do the developer team that we're working with directly. We'll do the core SKU, and then for Switch SKUs, for example, there are experts out there to help bring titles to those platforms. And there was a special demand put on those partners rather, in the beginning of the crisis. And I think we've managed that transition, really well as well. But it took some time.
Great to hear. And talking to a good amount of gaming companies overall, their audience went up quite a bit, and a lot of them also even, increased revenue and profits, which is nice. So going to the main topic of the session, how is the publishing landscape changing for PC, console, and mobile?
Well, I think when we first started, when we first wrote the business plan for Private Division in the later part of 2014 into 2015, the landscape looked from far away as two very different bookends. You had AAA, Quad A along the lines of the content that Rockstar is famous for in GTA and Red Dead Redemption, and then a red ocean of small indie games, typically featuring budgets below $1 million, if not quite a bit less than that. Most often found on Steam, and there wasn't anything in the middle, and yet these are two bookends separated by very large development tentpoles. And we said to ourselves, let's find opportunities in this space, particularly if we can obviate risk by working with proven creatives that have left the major studio systems and come into an independent shop. In many cases, they've hung their own shingle and wanted to work on their idea. And we started seeing developers that fit that thesis more and more. For example, Marcus Lato, who's building a game called Disintegration for us that ships later this spring. Marcus was a 20-year veteran of Bungie, helping create the Halo IP and the Master Chief as an iconic character. He wanted to go work on his own idea, and he set up his own shop to do just that. And so we saw that as an opportunity for us to hedge risk, get behind a proven creative who had been there, done that, and help bring a new IP to market. And then I think the other thing strategically for Take-Two, and I think this is true of any entertainment company, you have to always be planting the seeds for new intellectual property. Our industry really depends on sequels for the bigger economic opportunities. But if you're overly dependent upon sequels, I think you can wring the opportunity dry, and you have to plant the seeds to harvest tomorrow. And so we looked at it that way, where we're identifying new IPs, we can bring those to market, and hopefully there's greater opportunity as we do sequels for those titles. And so far that's worked out really well. We were, I think, alone in validating that new middle, some call it triple I, when we first began to ship games like Ancestors, and most recently The Outer Worlds, which garnered several hundred awards last year and was named Best RPG of the Year by certain publications. And now others are coming in the space. Competition validates what we were doing. And Epic's recent foray into the independent space is an interesting development. Obviously, they've got great reach by virtue of their tool set and the breadth of Fortnite. And we're interested
to see how
they
Epic coming in the market. With Epic coming in the market, how do you see the landscape changing with that?
Well, I think it's super interesting. Like I said, it validates what we're doing. It gives developers another publisher to turn to. I think people or developers that go with Epic might be constrained from publishing on the Epic Game Store, and I think that might limit the opportunity when there's titles available on. You want to reach a broader audience on Steam, but they're a tremendous partner, deep pockets. Impressive tool set with Unreal, of course, and really understand the gaming audience as being a developer over time.
Great, awesome. And within Take-Two, I mean, obviously you mentioned some of the other labels with major franchises like Grand Theft Auto that produce a lot of revenue. Where do you see private division grow at over the next years?
Well,
I think see it to get to a similar level as like a Grand Theft Auto.
It's going to take some time. I mean, there's only one GTA, but we're super ambitious. We see lots of opportunities for other creatives coming into the space. I think we've all realized with kids now growing up with a smartphone, transitioning to console games and PC games, we broaden the audience considerably. I think that the onset of this next console generation is going to be exciting. And I think that all points to a growing market. And so, I think, we have ambitions to build our own billion-dollar business over time. There's lots of great ideas out there, and we want to partner with those developers to get behind them.
What are some of the newer titles we should expect this year? And what are kind of your ideal studio partners on the publishing side?
Well, we've announced, Take-Two's a public company. We've announced that Disintegration is coming this year. Disintegration will feature a robust multiplayer component with live services as well. Really excited for that. And then we're shipping Kerbal Space Program at the end of fiscal 21 for Take-Two. KSP is a beloved property, really iconic independent game that we were fortunate enough to acquire back in 2017. And now we've got a dedicated studio working on that IP directly. So there's I think a rich and vibrant future for KSP, and based on what we've shown the market so far for KSP2, I think it's an incredible opportunity, and it's going to be a terrific game.
And new partners, what's an ideal partner for like new publishing relationships?
I think first off, it starts with the idea is an idea that needs to be made into a game, and then we ask ourselves, are we the team to best equipped to publish that idea? Do we have the production capacity and expertise, and can we talk about that game in a new light from a marketing standpoint? And when those things fit, we begin to assess the developer's track record. Are they a proven creative like Marcus and Patrice Deslay, who created Ancestors? Are they a team poised for breakout success, as we observe with Obsidian? Or are we trying to steer around the corner and find something wholly unique, where this is the team's first endeavor, and we want to get behind that idea? It's usually one of those different flavors, and then we'll do a title analysis to figure out the economic opportunity, and really look at the target audience to which we'd sell this game, and the analytics behind that. And when that overall equation pencils out, we're pretty excited to get behind an opportunity.
Great. The gaming business is migrating to a direct consumer model. I mean, Epic now has their own game store. What does it mean for Take-Two? And I think you recently, actually this week, launched your own game store as well.
We did. To be clear, we've had our stores online for some time, but the announcement that we made this week was really a complete reboot and overhaul of what was previously a pretty moribund effort. I think the direct to consumer trend came to video games last, not least because the size of the files and the fact that this is an interactive medium, of course, that involves engaging with the content in a way that linear video and online music doesn't. But I'd also say that consumers have been trained to consume video that way, consume their content that way, and they're increasingly demanding of the publishers. And I think that Disney Plus and Netflix and Hulu have shown us that consumers want to have a relationship with a brand that can get them access to a broad array of content. And we look at it the same way. where consumers are beloved fans of Rockstar and their content, of 2K, of NBA 2K, and the games that Private Division publishes. And we see that as a way for us to build the technology infrastructure behind that to deliver that content directly to consumers. But to be clear, we'll still maintain a broad distribution strategy while we pursue our own D2C platform.
Great. So Fortnite has been a prime example for successful cross-play titles. How important is cross-play for Take-Two, and what should we expect in the future?
Well, no announcements at this time, but cross-play is an important phenomenon for us to observe. I think that Epic was able to go to the major platforms and demonstrate that consumers wanted to consume that content in a certain way and play with their friends and engage with Fortnite in a mobile context. We're going to see that in a lot more other IPs as well. I think the platforms have been acute to recognize that the consumer sentiment there is really important, and you should give them the tools that they need to continue to engage with IPs and franchises. And we're going to take advantage of that as well for our bigger IPs over time, I suspect.
Great. So as your role as EVP of corporate development, so you acquired Social Point, a mobile gaming studio out of Barcelona several years ago, and Cable Space program you already mentioned. And it did minority investment in Proletariat. What kind of, are you currently looking at additional M&A deals? If so, what is interesting? And also, how do you balance, when do you get involved in minority investments?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we're always looking for accretive acquisitions in our space. And I think that the major criteria to look for are great teams, strong IPs with demonstrated success, ideally cash generative business that'll be accretive to our P&L. If there's a piece of technology or method of gameplay that team has embraced that could be additive to the entire enterprise, we look at those teams really closely to see if there's a deal to be done. And I think we're well equipped from a balance sheet standpoint to continue to do compelling deals. I think the opportunity for us to do minority investments is a thing that we've done, I think, successfully. We invested in Twitch back in 2014, and really the investment thesis there was this is a new kind of marketing. Streamers, influencers who create a grassroots campaign where it's not tops down marketing, it's bubbling up sentiment and interest from really the end consumer in a way. And Twitch was a remarkable platform that captured all that. We wanted to learn more about that form of marketing and engage with the platform directly. And Twitch enabled us to do that. And by investing early, I think we got the utmost attention from that team. And it was obviously a really great financial return for us as well. But I think that was secondary to the fact of the strategic value that offered. And I think we look at our most recent deal with Proletariat the same way. It's a really great team building a battle royale that a video game genre that we haven't yet immersed ourselves in. It's an interesting way for consumers to play. I think that the team led by Seth Sivak is terrific, and any good VC gets behind talented entrepreneurs. I think we've done that. And, I think that the game speaks for itself. It has an art reminiscent of Zelda Breath of the Wild, a beautiful patina, and I think it's going to be a terrific success when it launches.
Great. And on the M&A side, is it, if you look at both mobile, PC, console, is there more of a focal to further expand kind of your reach and also revenue on the mobile side? Is that a priority, or how do you balance that?
Well, getting deals done in the mobile free-to-play space is difficult. We did it, I think, well with Social Point. It was a team that had multiple hits, and that's something we really look for. And other players out there have done it really well as well. Tip my hat to Zynga and the great work that Chris has done on the M&A side and the executive team there led by Frank. They've done a terrific job at buying well. I think we continue to be interested in mobile free-to-play deals, both standalone operations and studios that might plug into the great publishing infrastructure that we have at Social Point. And I'd say on the console and PC side, it's back to the similar kind of look at the landscape I offered with how Private Division sees things. There are really talented teams out there. You have to look a little bit more closely sometime. There aren't as many bigger operations and bigger targets, but there's some really compelling small and medium-sized teams that we'd love to be able to work with. And we identify those regularly.
And how important is that they have develop their own unique IP? Is that a key criteria?
Yeah, I think it's super important. An idea that ideally has been proven out with at least one iteration. But it also speaks to the creative capacity of the team and their passion. It's not unusual for creators really to want to work on their own idea when they have an IP and they're stable. It's emblematic of that.
Great. So the year started really strong with a fairly large number of sizable M&A deals in the gaming space. How do you see the rest of the year play out on the M&A side?
I think notwithstanding the current challenges that the COVID-19 crisis has offered, I think M&A will continue at a strong pace. You can still conduct high-level diligence and do management team meetings over a Zoom forum, just like the one we're in now. It gets a little bit more difficult when you have to actually put boots on the ground and visit studios and see ideas and games in production to assess the trajectory of those projects and really an overall team's prospects. But I think that we're coming out the other side of this ideally, and all the major players have robust balance sheets to be able to pursue opportunities. So I don't see the pace slowing down any for 2020.
Great. Should we expect some deals from Take-Two this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think if the criteria I offered earlier are met, we're well poised to do deals. So we're always on the lookout.
Great. Considering COVID-19, what's your thoughts on how that will affect the gaming industry overall? I mean, seems to be an immediate boost for some titles at least, and some companies. But how do you see that play out for the rest of this year going into next year?
Well, I mean, you mentioned it yourself. The engagement levels on the part of consumers are record highs. Kids are out of school. It's like in some ways we began summer early. So there's more disposable free time for people to engage with our content. We're seeing that across the board, and the industry seeing that. Record levels of peak concurrent users on Steam and Fortnite and other places. So that's all healthy for the industry. I think over time, certain teams have made the transition to working from home really well, but others that are new to it, they're not operating with the same efficiency. At Private Division, we work with teams that are dispersed remotely, as well as those that are embedded in an actual same physical location. And those the teams that have worked natively remotely from the beginning have, obviously this is no change in their current posture, but those that haven't, the free flow exchange of ideas isn't as ideal in a forum like this one. You can walk around to your colleague's desk and really thrash an issue and get ahead of a problem. So hopefully it doesn't continue. We can get back to normal work.
Yeah, I also heard that some of the new titles might be a bit delayed, and so kind of the current titles are doing really well. Hopefully continue to do really well for the medium future, but the new ones might be pushed out a little bit.
Yeah, Sony moved Last of Us 2. It's going to be a terrific game when it ships. Looks like CD Projekt is still shipping Cyberpunk in late September, which is good news for the industry. So I think it's, developers, publishers are coming out on both sides of that.
Awesome. With that, thank you very much for doing this. And it was very
pleasure.
Insightful.
It's great to speak to you.
Thank you.
Thanks.